All right, we are carrying on our theme, so we will continue to pick a topic and go from there. All right, does provider rebooking rate impact how you balance the books?
This is a good one. Bum, bum, bum.
I think I might become the evil villain on this episode.
I will say I know this topic because this is one that we talked a little bit, and this could get scary. We might have to just cut this episode if it gets too aggressive. So explain what this topic is. What does that mean? What is the question?
The question, I think I'm really going to simplify it. Do you give brand new consults and new people to providers who have shown they don't have consistent rebooking and retention?
Okay, that was really dry.
That was that. I tried to just break it down.
Okay.
That's what this is.
Yeah. Okay. So do you give, so new clients, new consults? I mean, I'm going to share, I use the phrase raised a lot, and it's because I've been in this industry, I feel like, since I was a child. So I was raised on the concept of balancing the books, right? Like, new client comes, you look at balancing the books. So if provider X already has a new patient, provider Y is the next on the list, a new patient calls, then the new patient goes to provider Y. It's irrelevant of who has rebooking. It was never thought of. We never talked about it. It was all about diplomacy and fairness. And that was how we booked. And to this day, when I look at the books, it gives me anxiety when someone has no one on their books and someone is booked full of people that are new or non-requested. I want to start plucking them and moving them so that it's even across providers.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I still fully believe in balancing the books. This has just been a new way of thinking that Jeff has actually opened.
We're going to blame Jeff now, are we?
No, because I agree with it, and I've seen it, and I've had conversations about it. So anyways, it's a new way of thinking that I had not thought of before, but I'm completely on board with it.
Share more.
Okay.
Say more.
So yes, there is a thing as balancing the books. But when we think about how many marketing dollars go into getting a new person through the door.
How many marketing dollars do go into getting a new person through the door?
I have the perfect person here. You tell me, and you're in marketing.
Deflection. Anyways, carry on.
Hundreds of dollars, $100 per, $100 to $500 per
hundreds of dollars
client, per client to get into the door. So if we have a provider who has shown that they're not able to keep the client, is it in our best interest to continue to give this provider people that they are not rebooking or keeping? Does that make sense from a business perspective? Just that question. We don't need to go into all the others because we can talk through some other pieces of.
I know what you're doing and I don't like it. From a business perspective, providing them with a new lead and they have proven not to retain said clients, no, it does not make sense. But we talk all the time about culture and people first. So the idea of saying, well, you can't keep a client, so we're not going to feed you. Well, why even keep that provider then? To me, it doesn't go along the lines of development and people first. You're not giving them the chance and the opportunity to build their list with this new client. You're basically cutting their legs out from under them.
Well, I think you're jumping way too far ahead. We didn't get the chance to talk about though, how would we come along and support this person?
The only other question is does this make smart for a business? Is this smart as a business decision? I will go back and say, I understand what you're saying from a business perspective. It does not make sense. It makes sense to give it to the provider who has the highest retention. Is that what you want?
Well, no, I think we're here to talk about what we each believe.
But that is the answer to your original question.
Yeah. And I think there is definitely, I always talk about culture and I firmly believe I'm very, very, very passionate about culture. So I think there's a whole nother side of this. And yes, I did just ask that question, but I think it's great that we're talking about this because no one's just trying to cut people off at the legs. That would go against everything we do at Alpha and against who we are as people. So the next question would be then, if you've identified that in one of your providers, what's the coaching plan to support them and come alongside them so that we can all feel confident together in putting new consults on people's schedule? And let's be honest, we've both worked the front desk. There's no way you can tell me there's not certain people that call in
All of them
and
do.
you're a
I know
little
what you're gonna
bit,
say.
but you're a little bit nervous to book with someone who you're like, I don't know that this person is going to want to be and trust us and like want to come back.
Well, and I was thinking, so I wasn't thinking exactly. I made a false assumption. I do that frequently. It's my toxic trait, is I think I know what people are going to say before they say it. I'm working on it. Anyways, I think the other thing too is people do ask, like, who's the best person you have there? And it's not to say that the skill level is not there, because I do think that your rebooking rate might not be great, but it's not necessarily questioning your skill.
Right.
You might have great skill, but rebooking and talking about treatment plans is also a skill. So,
And I think most of the time we don't talk about that. So that's not fair for a provider to just, if we've never talked to them about it, that would be really unfair if all of a sudden we're like, hey, we're not going to keep booking you with new people because it's been showing that you
well,
don't keep them.
And that is where, like, I want to avoid the ick. Because for me, it's, if all of this happens and there's not a conversation, like, that gives me the ick, to be totally honest. I think that when it is justified, when you're talking about business, is when the expectation has been properly set. So if you're a new provider, and we say, hey, just as a heads up, like, we're going to try to generate new clients. Our priority is rebooking. Like, we want to make sure that we have longevity with our patients. Here's how we do that. So you teach them how to have the consultation. You teach them how to plan out, like, provide a treatment plan. And then, like, what does that look like? Okay, let me pause there and go back. So with a new patient or a new provider, you're a new provider. Let's say I do set the expectations and I say, to get new clients, we expect this. Well, how do I get clients on my books?
Yeah.
So if I haven't even had a chance to prove myself that I have a high rebooking rate,
we absolutely give you new clients. Like, otherwise, how would we know?
Okay, well,
so we're talking about where no, we're talking about when we identify that someone has proven, which I think I said in the beginning too. Like, we've proven
per my previous email
that someone hasn't been able to retain and rebook clients. Then it becomes a conversation of, do we need to reassess where we're putting our new clients? And that's the conversation we would have with it.
Sorry, I'm confused. So you have a new provider who hasn't been able to prove that they're good at rebooking or not good at rebooking because they don't have new clients
I think
yet.
we need to take the word new provider out. We have a provider.
Well, I'm specifically talking about new providers.
We have to put new people on new providers' schedule. Otherwise, we don't know what they're going to do with them.
So then what is your sample size of rebooking? So you're an established provider, great rebooking. I'm a brand new provider. New patient comes. Are you prioritizing that new patient for the existing provider with proven rebooking, or are you giving the new provider a chance?
You're giving the new provider a chance, and it's based on what the client needs and the schedule, right?
Okay. So then how long as a new provider after the expectation has been set for me, as far as like, hey, you're going to have X amount of time. We're going to work with you to help develop your rebooking. Here's what that looks like. And then do you say after that amount of time, if you don't like...
So we usually, when we're looking at trends, like a good data set is 3 months. However, if your manager should be every month meeting with you on what your trend is, it trending in the right direction, so that you're not surprised in 3 months with like, oh, I haven't been rebooking. I've even seen people do this daily. You have had 5 clients today. You booked 3 out of the 5.
Okay. But what's the expectation? So like at the 3-month mark, so after 90 days, if my rebooking...
I'd say you should be at least rebooking 60% of your clients.
So if I'm not rebooking 60% at 90 days, then the conversation is, just as a heads up, we're no longer going to put new clients with you.
Until we can get your rebooking up to 60%, we're going to start to be giving other people these new clients, because unfortunately we have seen that you haven't been able to rebook these people.
So... And then I understand, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get new clients. But as a new provider, again, I'm not going to also have a ton of returning clients. So how do I get my numbers back up to where they need to be to prove that I'm deserving of new clients?
So this is a whole nother conversation, though, about provider like hustle and drive and how they're building their books too. It can't all be on us.
Okay. So essentially what you're saying is that you set really clear expectations out of the gate for new providers and say, the expectation is that we're going to provide you with new clients, but if you are not booking 60% after a 90-day trend, then we're no longer going to be prioritizing new clients on your books. We'll come alongside you. We'll coach you to help you regain with the clients you have on your books. And essentially they will have to go out and do the fishing to try to get people on their books to prove that they can be a 60% person who rebooks.
Absolutely.
And you don't think that that's going to cause turnover?
Not if you're doing it in the right way and you're supporting them and you're helping them understand the why behind it. We literally just did this in a couple practices. And it actually wasn't as like scary as maybe you're thinking, because when you're able to explain it to a team or able to explain the why behind, I'm not kidding you, like light bulbs were going off.
I will say that with existing providers, that would probably be the case.
Because here's the thing.
But I think that new providers, would be very scary to them. And I think that you might not get the new provider hire, and or you're going to have high turnover.
What I would say with like new providers specifically, since it sounds like we keep going back to like new.
Yes.
Because this could happen with this could be like an expert injector who's not rebooking that we would actually also be looking at this.
And I do get that I'm hung up on this.
I know. So for new providers specifically, this is a little bit different because we are there to support them. If they are new to this industry, they've never done this before. I hear you, and that does not feel fair whatsoever. Where this works is we are here to support and come alongside you in this. Like your success is my success. I think a previous boss told you, I will not let you fail.
Mm-hmm.
That is us as managers, is like, I will not let you fail as a new provider. I'm going to support you. We are going to shadow your consultations. We're going to have someone come in and you're going to see how they rebook really well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll partner you with someone who does this really well, so that you can also retain your people, because this is only going to help you rebuild your business as you continue to grow. I would be doing these new people a disservice if I didn't talk to them about the importance of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Because in 3 months, your books are going to be dead still, and you're going to wonder, hey, how come what's up with marketing? They're not doing anything. And then I go back and I dig in.
It's always marketing's
I know,
fault.
poor marketing.
It is poor
right?
marketing.
And then we go back and we dig in, and it's like, actually,
I
wish I would have had this conversation with you when you started.
It's you. No, I agree with that. I get what you're saying. I think that where I can be converted is it's got to be fair, and they have to have a fair chance, and the expectations have to be clear. In that scenario, if it is the case, I 100% wholeheartedly support that because of a reason that you just mentioned, which is it benefits them too. Like it might be like the sink or swim, the kid that you throw in the pool, but you tell them ahead of time, like, I'm going to give you the floaties, but we're going to throw you in to the pool and you're going to be okay. I'll be here to help you, but I just want to see where you're at. Maybe that's extreme, and maybe that didn't happen to anyone but me, and that's my own past childhood trauma. But I do think that ultimately it creates a strong swimmer. And so I think that if all of those things are true, it helps the business and it helps the provider. I just think it has to have some heart. And when I talk about has to have some heart is like, how is there the coaching and the development along it? Like, here's what we're looking at and here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're, assessing this. Let me ask you this question. So in some of these new conversations that you had, you said you just did it with some practices. Are you giving them runway? So like you're a provider and I say, you know what, Janelle, your rebooking rate is 40%. And for us right now, we are doing a campaign for new clients, but we want to prioritize whatever. Actually, let me not make it up. You tell me what that conversation sounds like.
So the conversation is, here's how we've looked at this in the past, and this is now how we're thinking about it. So I'm honestly planting the seed at first, like I would with any sort of change management, whether that be we're extending hours and I need people to work late. This is a whole nother mind shift in how most of us have always thought about things. So it's a conversation of like, here's now how we're thinking about rebooking, and the why behind it. So if for all the reasons I just mentioned, not rebooking, sorry, balancing the books and getting new consults on people's schedules. So it's starting with that conversation. The next piece of it is then meeting with the managers. Okay, let's talk through, what does this look like? How do you track this? What are the conversations you are having to continue this follow-up conversation of like, okay, I'm planting the seed. This is a new way of how we're thinking about it. We're going to continue to monitor your rebooking because this has been a focus. So this isn't totally a new concept for them.
Right. So they're not all of a sudden having to do
They're
rebooking,
like, what's rebooking? Like, how do I do that?
Yeah, I hope not.
So this is not a completely foreign concept, and it's actually what's happening. And I had a follow-up meeting today. People's rebooking is all shooting up. And they're getting the why behind when the managers have had these conversations of like, hey, here's a new way that we're thinking about this. And that's why I said light bulbs have actually kind of gone off with them of like, oh, that does actually make a ton of
Yeah.
sense. And now what we're seeing a month later is these people who historically had lower rebooking or didn't, I guess, see the importance of it
Yeah, which is very
are
important.
now changing their mindset
Yeah.
and looking at it a little bit differently.
What I would like to say is that it is in the best interest of everyone to focus on rebooking. It is in the best interest of the patient because ultimately they're coming and it is uncommon that they're going to be treated in one treatment for all of time and that everything that they've ever wanted to address is addressed in that one visit. So I will say that by focusing on rebooking, it is going to help the providers look at it from a broader perspective, which will mean that you're going to have better patient retention, better patient satisfaction, which to me is key. And then ultimately, as a result, that benefits the provider. I would say that explaining the why is pivotal because again, going back to the beginning when you asked me from a business perspective, does this make sense? It does. From a human perspective, as long as you're setting your people up for success and it's not just about the top line, which again, none of us can get paid. None of us have jobs if we don't focus on the top line, but the people matter too. And we don't have a successful long-term business if we don't focus on the people. So if that's included as well, and there's a path forward for these people who are developing and growing, then great. I will also
I would say not if that's included, that has to be
Okay,
included.
yes,
Yeah, there's no way you can have these conversations and do these types of things if you don't.
you can, but it'll
Well,
be gross.
But that would go back to your whole question of like, wouldn't you be scared people would leave, that
Right.
you would have high turnover?
Right.
I would if I did this in the wrong way.
Yeah, it would be gross. So your motives have to be pure. And I think that, again, we're running a business, and I'm not saying that we're not. We have to run a business. We have to look at numbers. We have to think about those things. But just don't lose sight of the people, which I know that we're agreeing on because that's just who we are. That's who Alpha is. That's who our partners are. So I understand that. It's just really, really important. And then I think the other side of this too is that if I'm being really honest, the providers that are not going to adhere to this are not necessarily providers that are really seeing the big picture of what's in the best interest of their patients. So that is an even more telling piece of this, which is there could be coaching conversations where these providers are really just thinking of that dollar in the moment, where maybe they're potentially the ones that aren't thinking about this holistically or ethically. And it might not be intentional. And so hopefully this gives them the broad perspective to think of it as a big picture and the best interest, not only themselves, but most importantly, the patient.
So you're saying I converted you?
I mean, I wasn't always in opposition, but again, like, yeah, I get it. Makes sense.